Did you know by waxing your snowboard, you can literally help yourself from getting stuck in those flat spots, not be the slowest person in the group, and have a way better snowboard experience simply by waxing your snowboard? So in this video, I'm gonna teach you exactly how to wax your snowboard, why you should do it yourself, and what tools are all recommended. So let's start off by why the heck should you actually wax your own snowboard? Number one, you can do it at your own convenience. 2 o'clock in the morning, you're about to go on a trip. Well, guess what? You can do it yourself. Most shops usually can do it in an hour, or it might even be the next day. So then you're kind of limited on when you can do it. Secondly, you may send this to a shop and they may charge you between $40 and $60, where if you get the kit and do it yourself, you could easily save so much money. It could be literally like a tenth of the cost. And I definitely recommend that you wax your snowboard every 3 to 5 days if you're looking for like the best results. So that means that if you take it to a shop, it's gonna stack up a lot of cash, which is not ideal because you're trying to spend that money on a trip, season pass, or other stuff. So that's another reason why you should wax your own snowboard. Now let's discuss all the tools that you'll need, starting with an iron. Now I highly recommend that you get a specifically designed iron for skiing and snowboarding because there's gonna be a couple benefits. When I was 12 years old, I saved up some money and I wanted to get my own iron. Well, I went into a snowboard shop and they said, just use a $5 iron from like Target or Walmart. So I did, and it ended up actually ruining my snowboard because there was burrs on my snowboard. I waxed and then I scratched the base of the iron, and then I just scratched and ruined the entire base of my snowboard because I listened to some bad advice. So I definitely recommend you use a specific wax iron for these two reasons. It's going to be way more durable so that you can actually protect your snowboard. And some people are spending a lot of money on snowboard and we got to protect our investment. And number two is you're actually going to have a better heat distribution throughout the block. When you buy a cheap iron, usually the hot spot's in the center and then the rest of it is not hot. So then you're ironing and all of a sudden you're just like having to work 10 times harder because you're not getting a even heat across the board, so you're just getting a little spot. So I definitely recommend that. And that segues perfect into today's sponsor, which is Pearl Wax. Use the code Tommy15 for 15% off your next order and any future order. That's going to be linked down in the description below, along with all the tools that you see in this video. It's all going to be down there. But the reason why I partnered with Pearl is they're a Colorado-based company that's constantly innovating and testing their products to make it as awesome as possible. Now, I'm a massive fan of their Pro Wax because it's fast, but they also have a recreational wax that's going to come in bulk and be a bit more of a budget friendly, but it's still pretty awesome. And we're going to be discussing more wax here in a little bit, but remember, use the link in the description below and code Tommy15 for 15% off your next order and any future orders. Now, before we start waxing, let's break down some of our wax just so we know what to put on our snowboard. Now, we are looking for the snow temperature that you're going to be riding next. And if you're looking for a guide on the side of the box, there's going to be a guide. Now, the orange wax is usually your warmer wax, purple is your mid wax, and green/blue is going to be your colder wax, just as an easy reference. And then before we start waxing, I definitely recommend that you get a gummy stone or a stone that allows us to take any of the burrs off of our edge. That's going to be pretty important because if you have a burr, you can scratch your iron. This iron's awesome, but we're just making sure our iron has long of a life as possible. Now, to properly use a gummy stone, you should actually dip it in water and then you're going to go back and forth. I like back and forth just like this. I recommend that you make sure that it's flat on the snowboard so that it's nice and flush. And then you're going to go through the entire edges of your board, making sure that there's no burrs. It's just good maintenance in general as well. And then you may have rust, you may have debris from that. So I would definitely take a paper towel and wipe that down just so that you have a nice starting base. Plus, we don't want to actually put any of the wax on top of any debris because that's not awesome. We want to keep our wax and base as clean as possible to minimize friction, which means we're going to be able to go fast. I'm going to use the purple wax, and that's rated from about 10 degrees to 32. So it's a pretty good range of temperature and exactly what I'm going to be snowboarding in tomorrow, which is about 25 degrees. After that, we're going to use this method that is absolutely a game changer and mandatory in my opinion. And I learned this from the US team, and this is how they do it. The top of the top dudes do it this method, and it's called the crayon method. Now, you can drip it. I'm not a fan of just dripping because you're gonna drip, it's gonna splash all over you, all over the place, as well as you waste a lot of wax, and then you have just this massive thick layer of wax all over your board where you're wasting a lot of wax that you just spent a bunch of money on. So I have the wax on my right hand, my iron on my left hand, and I'm simply just gonna tap. Now I'm gonna tap and let go. If I hold too long, then I'm gonna create dripping. So I'm gonna tap and then I'm just going to crayon. You're gonna notice here that it starts to make a little crayon mark on the board, and then notice that I'm tapped, go. And I can definitely go over the same spot if there tends to be a little bit of like an empty spot. Also, yes, there's gonna be a little bit of dripping, but notice that I'm managing that drip. It's gonna be dripping in the center. It's going to be the most efficient way to wax your board. This is used by the US team and a lot of professional skiers, snowboarders, racers. So if they're doing it, they got to be onto something. So we're absolutely going to steal that. Now I'm going to work my way back and forth. Now you can go in lines like I just did, or you can just go from one part of the board to the other. And then right now you may be asking, well, why am I not waxing the complete nose of the board? Well, there's two reasons. One, I absolutely can. If I'm racing board across or I'm going to the Olympics, I would wax here because technically the snow is going to hit here. It may reduce your speed, small percentage, and then it's going to hit here. But for me, I'm just recreational snowboarder, so I'm making sure that I'm conserving a little bit of my wax because I love this wax and I want it to last, and I'm not trying to go to the Olympics. I want to show how much wax was used for my method compared to like a brand new block. Now, if I were to just compare these, notice how much I did not use. Pretty incredible, right? So imagine how many waxes I'm going to get out of this entire this block. That's gonna last a while if you do it this way, but imagine you had these blocks. These are like a full pound. This is gonna last you a long time. So I definitely recommend getting the more expensive wax because A, it's gonna last with my method, plus it's faster, and at the end of the day, I'm trying to go fast. I can see here that I've gotten most of the board completely waxed, and I don't need the gnarliest, thickest layer, right? Now the next step is I'm gonna use my iron, and I'm simply gonna go from one end, and I'm just gonna smoothly move the iron at a consistent pace from the tip of the board to the other side. And if I'm like moving way too quick, you're gonna notice that there's like a lot of spots that didn't get melted. If I'm going way too slow, that's not good either. So you're trying to find like a nice, consistent, smooth motion, just like this. Now, as I see back here, there might be like a spot or two that I missed. I can always go back and make sure that I fill that spot in. Now there may be some imperfections in your board. There might be some like low spots. Well, then just do the back and forth bad driver method. I don't know if this is official, but you just go like, I'm trying to like park in the spot, bad driver. And you are going to notice that when I'm doing this first pass that my iron is hovering over the edge, allowing it just to make sure I cover the entire edge. Once I've done the first pass, I'm going to just go in the middle. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure down. I'm essentially letting the weight of the iron do a lot of the work, constantly moving, and I definitely do not want to stop moving because that could be bad for your board. Now you've completed the wax, I would definitely make sure that you go back and look for any spots that may be missing. It might be hard to tell in this light, but there's a little bit of spot here that I just want to go back through, make sure that I've distributed all the wax evenly, and then we're going to be pretty good to go. Pretty sick, right? Now this board's been sitting for a while and it's time to scrape, but how do I know if the board's ready or not? Well, simply place your hands on the board and check to see if there's any warm or hot spots. If there is, it needs more time. I traditionally will wax my snowboard at night and then just scrape it in the next day so that I know it has plenty of time. Now I feel like this is a pretty big misunderstanding of how to use a scraper, but what I've been taught through the US team was you'll take your hands just like this and then press your thumbs in the center, and then you're going to scrape this way. You see a lot of people doing this, which could actually cause a lot of problems because you're like jamming into the base itself and you may slip and cause some problems. But if you're here, then you're never actually going to jam into the base. Rather, you're going to be taking the wax off of the board in a nice manner. Now, I definitely recommend that you have a sharp scraper. Pearl does have a wax scraper sharpener. Check that out because making your life 10 times easier. Now, because I don't want to make a massive mess in my house, I'm going to show you how I would do it in the parking lot. So I'm going to find the nose of my snowboard, which is right here, and I'm going to press this against the tire. And then this is my life hack. We're going to do the same technique like this, and then I can go here. Look at this. I'll go like this a little bit so you can see the full thing. So then I'm going to scrape. Notice that I'm doing sections, and to me, it's just like making sure you get the whole thing. You're not doing too much on one spot, not enough on the other. And you can see where there's like certain spots, like right here, there's like extra wax. Might be hard to see in the video. I'll just spend a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra love there, and go back here. And speaking of doggy, come here. This is Copper. He's our dog reference. Hi. And I definitely recommend that you scrape from the nose to the tail of the snowboard, ideally, but sometimes you have to do like half of it, turn your board around, do the other half. Totally okay, because within the first 100 feet of riding your snowboard, it's gonna buffer out, but it is way more important when you are using a brush that you do the whole thing one directional from the nose to tail. We'll get to that in a second. How much should I actually scrape off? Now the goal is to scrape off as much as you can so there's not big chunks coming out. So like this, if I'm having all this wax come off, eventually I'm looking for it and you'll hear it, you'll feel it, there's no more wax. It's gonna be nice and smooth. Then once you feel like you've gotten all the wax off, you can go to a brush. Now this is going to be like the added level of becoming as fast and awesome as possible. I tend not to brush because I scrape and I go snowboard. But if you want to go one level higher, you could use a brush. When brushing, I definitely recommend that you hold the brush with your fingers here, put your thumbs around, and then it looks like this. Now, I'm going to be able to hold the board with one hand, and I'm going to be able to get a lot of elbow grease and directional movement with my brush. Then the best technique for brushing I have found is this 3-step process. Step number 1, brush from the nose to the tail in thirds. So you're going to do this third, and this third. Next step would be do it in halves. So you're gonna do this half, and then the third step is do full passes just like this. That's gonna allow you to get the most consistent and awesome pattern when you are waxing. And there you go, your board is waxed and you're gonna be feeling amazing the next time you go snowboarding. So definitely let me know if you like this video by liking this video. Use that discount down below, 15% off your next order or any future orders by using that code of Tommy15. And definitely share this with a friend because we wanna make as many snowboarders as awesome as possible. Let's go.